if you bad mind people to go meet it up. Pass me the Congo, Jama, let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it up. No weapon that form against us shall not prevail. No man that rise against us, that war they shall never win. Because I will conquer, no I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, no I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. Thank you, Father. I want to say thank you, Lord. You're everything, Father. Thank you. Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my path. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to feel. And remember you gave us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of lies. Send down your warriors with the hello, they carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this time is coming. I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no other. Could it be that we decide? No weapon that form against us shall not prevail. No man that rise against us, that war they shall never win. Because I will conquer, no I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, no I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. I am a man, I am a champion, I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the various radio stations, 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 91.9 and 91.5 RealFM radio, 92.9 Sister Radio broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video feed, whether it's on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Instagram. A very special good morning to you. And with me in studio this morning, I have my co-host, Mr. Roland Bola. Good morning, Mr. Bola.
Good morning to you, Miss Duncan, and good morning to all our listeners. We are coming in from a very kind of lengthy weekend. 4 days. Started last Thursday afternoon until last night. And I trust that for most of us, it was a time where we had an opportunity for relaxation, for reflection, some fun, some joy, some laughter. I've been out on the streets during Sunday afternoon, and yesterday afternoon I had a need to be out of the house again. And the traffic up my neck of the woods in St. Andrews and into St. Patrick's side was, pretty heavy. I learned that there were a couple of accidents, maybe minor ones. I have not heard of any fatality as a result of those accidents, but of course, an accident is always not the very best thing that you want. Whether there was just injury or so, it runs into a cost and into delays and, having to take your vehicle and probably the other person's vehicle to the garage and all those things. So that's sad. But other than that, I believe it was a good long weekend. It was the Easter weekend. There was a lot of church activities. Many people who used that opportunity to pray and to fast and do different things, while some used it to fete. I actually saw, and that is not on Facebook or any one of the social platforms. I was on my way into St. Patrick's, into Sauternes to be quite frank, on Sunday afternoon, and I chose, coming out of St. Andrews, I went through the Hermitage route, Hermitage into I almost said Birch Grove. No, it's not Birch Grove. Mount Rich, Hermitage into the Mount Rich area. And because I wanted to see, that is where the first phase of the CCC St. Patrick's Road improvement is taking place. So it's a while I didn't traverse that area to see the progress, and they are progressing well. In fact, from the far end where we referred to, or it's called Google Bailey Hill, that is which separates the upper part of Hermitage from Mount Rich. They have actually started the pavement, the asphalt pavement, and that's a nice stretch of road, widened, proper drainage and everything else like that, and so. But surprisingly, when I got into Mount Rich, man, there was carnival-like atmosphere. There were actually people oiled up and in a jab mood, chanting and jumping in the streets with, lots of vehicles and so I was a little bit in a slight bit of shock because I expected people to have some semblance of gathering. It's a holiday, the following day, the Monday was a public holiday. People will be out, flying their kites and having their fun. But the actual carnival type activity with people black in, whether it was the tar or the old oil, whatever they used, to me it was a major defiant of all of the practices that we were expected to portray during a period like that. It was really just saying, well, we don't care, we can jump, we can wave, we can play our mask, nothing would happen. As some people say, Grenada is free. And we keep pressing home the point that COVID, as we have seen from the time it started in the latter part of 2019, early 2020s, have been able to change its form and its method of attack time and time again. You have places like the US now going through the third, some people say the fourth wave, with a different strain. It's happening in Europe. Just for the weekend, both France and Italy had to go back on lockdown. Total lockdown, because they're seeing another wave. So, I don't know what more we need in Grenada to understand that the possibilities of we having an all-out attack is still very real. We have had good successes thus far. We have been able to keep COVID under reasonably good control. From the reports, there's been only one death. Kudos to the Ministry of Health and to all of the working people that are frontline workers, whether it's police officers or whoever you may be at the seaports, at the airports, at our ports of entry. They have been catching and capturing the people who come in that are positive, because I think it is still mandatory. It doesn't matter where in the world you come from. Even if you have a negative PCR test, and today, even if you have taken your vaccine, you'd still be quarantined. You will be tested after a certain amount of days, and they have been able to catch up with the positive cases. I think, if I'm not mistaken, just over the weekend, there might have been 2 or so cases of positive cases of people coming in. Yes. Over the weekend, I've heard news to that effect. The point I'm making is that all of that is being done, and congratulations to those people who put themselves on the line to do that. But how are we repaying them, and how are we taking these benefits that we have achieved so far, and how are we getting to the next level? So there's already this heavy resistance, especially among young people and some others, on vaccine resistance. Oh, we're not taking vaccine, there's no need for it. And then there's a total lack of understanding in my mind, or just a statement of defiance. I don't know which is correct, whether it's ignorance, a statement of defiance, or whether we really do believe that naturally Grenadians are immune from COVID. I mean, one of the cases that was in quarantine, not what was found this weekend, some weeks before, CARFA, the regional body, have tested the samples taken and found it to be the UK variant, which means that already in this region, the UK variant is here. There's the South African variant. There is the Brazilian. By the way, speaking about Brazil, I mean, government is physically now going around with trucks, the government of Brazil, trying to share foodstuff, rice and other things, because they have been hit so hard and affected so badly by COVID. But I remember some time ago, the very Brazilian people were demonstrating against the government for having national lockdown, for trying to protect them. So sometimes I just don't understand what is it we hope to achieve
and you know,
from not adhering to the protocols.
And you know, as you mentioned that, it's quite a telling situation, because there they were at the very beginning marching for their rights and freedoms and talking about not being, you know, locked down and all of that, demonstrating, which is actually, which has been said actually, is what led to such a rampant spread of the virus and so much mutations being spread in Brazil. And now it is a different story. Now they are still protesting. They're still making a noise, but for a different reason. They're saying now that the government is too complacent and not doing enough. You know? So where does the balance come in? I mean, it's a situation where we want to have our cake and eat it at the same time.
Well, I mean, you must have your cake to eat it. But after you eat it, you can't have it. You can't
have it. You know,
so we want to eat our cake and have it.
And have it. Eat our cake and have it. Not have and eat, yes. We want to eat our cake and have it. And it's similar to this situation. I mean, we have been blessed so far. God has really smiled on us as a nation that we have not seen.
And there have been a lot of people who have sacrificed their time and their own livelihood by being out there and catching this thing before it starts spreading.
And also risking their own lives as well. We have literally had people putting themselves in front of us to protect us from COVID. And it's sad that we are now looking at a situation where there is a means and a way in which we can help protect these people as well, or help protect somebody else in our country by getting vaccinated, and we don't see it as that. You know, we find all sorts of excuses. We look for all sorts of conspiracy theories to kind of back up how we feel on the inside, or to validate our reasons for not doing it. But then at the end of the day, I always say information is always power. Information and facts never lie. At the end of the day, the conspiracy theories will dwindle away with time, and some would feel very silly for not doing what they could have done to protect themselves or a family member. Just recently, I think it was this morning, that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago tested positive for COVID. And I'm sure that he, in all his wisdom, has been doing everything he can do to keep himself from getting COVID. But you just never know. There isn't an absolute remedy for not catching COVID. You just never know when you're going to catch it, or how you're going to catch it, or where it's going to come from. There is this big uncertainty hovering as to when are we going to see COVID in Grenada?
When are we going to see it?
As we've seen it in other places.
Oh,
I mean, we would hope that
never.
we never get to that point.
I hope never.
But
maybe that is what is going to teach some of us the lessons. Maybe we have not learned, maybe we have not seen. Because some wise person once said, you don't have to experience it yourself to understand it. Because there's so many other people around you that have had the experience. I mean, the news is not short of telling you what is happening in various countries around the world, not just here in the region, not just in Trinidad. And I mean, look, Jamaica is really under the effects of COVID-19. We already complain, and we know for a fact that our health system is not the strongest and not the best in the world or in the region. But kudos to our medical workers, whether they're nurses, doctors, health workers, whatever you do, kudos to them. The little that we have, the scarce resources that is available to them, they are trying to do the very best. And there are a lot of people who think that more can be done and more should be done. And of course, we always have to strive to get at a higher level, to become number one in whatever we do, whether it is in health, in sports, in academics, wherever it is. Grenadians have shown themselves time and time again to be very resilient and to be able to fight back in times of adversity.
Yeah.
But do we want to create adversity? I don't think we want to create it.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit bothering for me. I saw that in Montreach area. But there were several other parts where I noticed. I mean, there's that place when you're heading from St. Patrick's into the La Poterie area that is commonly referred to as the Long Wall. It's a recent, work was done a couple of years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, or a little more, to build that lengthy retaining wall on the River Antoine beach side, where the road was being eroded by the rising sea levels, and they had to protect it by building this tremendous wall. So it's called Long Wall. It's a nice place for hang out and so. And the buses, as they go around, which I notice is kind of commonplace now, that people are going on these bus rides, these bus trips, as we call them, around the island. Sightseeing, I guess, and doing other things of interest. Wonderful. But then from time to time, they gather again, they pack up in an area. And Sunday night, you had that. Sunday evening into night in Long Wall. Several buses and other transport. And apparently they carry around the bars with them, the coolers. And people were just blasting the music from the vehicles. And it was, again, a carnival-like atmosphere. Drinking and jumping and chanting and having a good time. Is that the only way we know to have a good time? Having a good time, must it always be that carnival-like way, Many years ago, somebody sang something about Jab Jab, and we were boasting that we were a Jab Jab nation. And I recall saying to a number of persons, I'm Grenadian, but I would not like to be known to be from the Jab Jab nation, because Jab Jab is actually broken French. And what it really means is devil. The word Jab. So when you talk about Jab Jab, you're saying devil, devil. And that's what you portray from Jab Jab. Are we really devils? I don't think so. I don't think most of us would like to be referred to as that. So we need to get that out of our head. This thing about everything has to be a Jab Jab style, for enjoyment and fun and laughter. I don't believe so. We have to get alternative ways. There must be some safer way in which we can interact and we can reach out to each other and we can relate to each other outside of the Jab Jab like atmosphere. And I am not saying that to belittle anyone who thinks that Jab Jab is part of our culture. Maybe it is. We have known it from time memorial. Since I came and know myself into Grenada on this earth, and that is over 50 years now, I've known and heard about Jab Jab. Is Jab Jab a bad thing? I'm not saying so. But I'm saying at this time, when we need to be conscious of the fact that COVID is still very real, still very prevalent, and while we do not have community spread here in Grenada, it doesn't take much to cause it.
Yep.
The kind of panic there will be today and tomorrow among so many people if we only found out that one person or two persons or three people who've been in Bathway or any one of the other sites where you had mass gathering has been tested positive today or tomorrow with COVID. Everyone's hands will be, oh God, I was there. Oh, I want to get a test. I mean, we don't have to let that kind of anxiety get to us. We can be there. And I'm not saying people shouldn't go out. I'm not saying people shouldn't socialize. But do it properly. Wear your mask. Try to keep a little distance from each other's face. I mean, come on.
We have a comment on the live that says Jab Jab doesn't mean devil. There is a broader cultural context to it.
Well, yes, there is. That's why I said we believe it's cultural to us. But the translation of the word, because Jab Jab is broken French, is devil. I'm not calling and I'm not saying the people are devils. No, absolutely not. Remember, I made the point, I don't think any one of us in Grenada would like to be called a devil. No. I'm saying also that yes, this may be part of our culture. But in this time when we need to be protective against a pandemic, is it the right time for us to still have this carnival jab like atmosphere? And I'm saying that I saw people in the black. This is what you portray, you know. I remember holidays, I played jab as a youngster. The band, everyone had their red pants, our lips were red. That's why you put on these bowlies and things with the cow horn. It's a depiction of what the devil looks like. Are we devils? I don't believe so. But we depict that. All I'm saying is, can't we find another acceptable way to socialize at this time?
Yeah.
The pandemic may clear up at some point in time. I don't know when. The record we have of the last pandemic was 100 years ago, 1920. Yes? It took 3 years plus to be completely cleared up, the Spanish flu. Would this one take 2 years? Would it take 3 years? Would it take 4 or more? I don't know. The experts doesn't even seem to know, because of the way in which it has been changing, mutating. The virus has been changing itself ever so often. Would it go longer than we saw, than we read about, than the history has shown during the Spanish flu, during the plagues? We don't know. All we can say is that based on the science available, these are the things they have asked us to do to make sure that we protect ourselves, inclusive of taking our vaccines.
But I think we also have a bigger problem, Mr. Bola, and I mean, we've spoken about it here a while back. I know that COVID has kind of consumed a lot of our conversations and topics, but there is something bigger that's the problem. Why is it that we no longer feel the need to celebrate Easter in the way that we were brought up to celebrate it? You know? Why is it that even Christmas, everything now just seems to be a fit? It seems to be, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with wanting to or wrong with liking to, but when it consumes your whole being, when it is all that you can think about, when it is all that controls your decision making and your emotions, because a lot of the people who are against the lockdown and against curfews and so on are mostly people who want to fit, who want to be engaged in this kind of activity and behavior for lengthy periods. It's seen, it's proven, especially among our young people. So where did the breakdown take place?
Well,
where do you think we've gone wrong?
Well, when you look at the life, someone is saying they don't consider that a breakdown. Let's get familiar with our history and culture, right? And I presume from that, that person is saying, well, jab is what is our culture. Is that the only thing that is our culture? And I mean, I am not a historian, and I don't pretend that I know everything about our culture. Absolutely not. I do believe, because I've said that I've been on this out here for more than 50 years, and I've known jab from the time I had the sense to know it and to understand it. So it must be rooted very deeply somewhere in our culture and in our psyche. But for every single occasion that we get, that's all we can depict. That's a question I'm asking. And for even at the risk of being repetitive, I am not condemning jab, because I know how sometimes our people can misinterpret and get the wrong impression from what we say. You know, I am not condemning it. I'm not saying we should not partake in it. My question is, at this time, when there is still a very, very active and relevant virus, when there is still a pandemic, when we are seeing all around us what is happening, people are going down daily, countries are reeling under the pressure, the health system incapable of dealing, and I'm not talking just about third world struggling economies like Grenada. I mean, look at the mighty US, look at places like Canada and London and France and Germany, where, in fact, I saw a bit of news. I think it was Friday night or sometime, where in France, the police is physically moving around and checking restaurants and bars because some people are still sneaking in and trying to break the protocol and break the lockdown. And people are being charged. Some of them was told that they can lose their license and their business. That is how serious these people recognize this virus is and the damage it can do, not just to the human being, but to our whole psyche and our economic activities. So friends, please don't think that I am condemning jab. I am not condemning jab. I'm in no position to do so. I'm just saying what I experienced, what I saw with my own eyes, not somebody putting up a picture on Facebook. It's something that I saw in its train. It was in action when I was passing through. And I'm asking myself, why does it have to be always that jump and whine and blacking ourselves and jab style to celebrate? It's Easter time, kite flying, going to the beach, all of those things. Why do we have to engage? Yes, it may be part of our culture. Yes, it may be deeply rooted in us. Yes, we have to continue to portray it. But even if we are doing it, can't we find a safer way in which to do it, where we can protect ourselves and those around us and those whom we're going home to from the possibility of contracting the virus? That virus is serious. It is very serious. Thank God, as we've said, Grenada has been spared the true wrath of this virus. We have seen the news. There are countries, even in the US, they had to put up makeshift hospitals, tent hospitals, using trailers and put beds in it and setting up air-conditioned systems and getting the rooms equipped so that people can be on ventilators and what have you. We didn't have that yet in Grenada. We hope we never will. But if we are so careless and we take everything for granted and we get to that stage, do we really believe that our health system can really take that on? Or are we going to do like the Brazilians did, take the streets, demonstrate against the actions that government are taking to be proactive, and then when it actually hits home and the chickens come home to roost, we turn around and blame and complain about the same government and saying that they are not proactive enough? Yeah. I mean, let's learn from the examples of others.
I think it's really, really very sad that we have come to a place where our children and their children, and I mean, they just don't appreciate much else. You know, it's not a situation where we are enjoying our different festivities, our different cultures, the way in which, and as you said, jab is not our only culture. You know, jab is not our only tradition, but yet it is portrayed to be it is, we're giving the impression that it is all that we are, that it is all that we do. You know, you see Christmas, people want to play a jab. Carnival, we want to play a jab, and rightfully so, because it's our culture and our tradition. Easter, you still want to play a jab. You have a little holiday, you want to play a mass. You know, everything is about playing, and not just a jab. And let me come away from the word jab, but playing a mass. Everything is about playing a mass. When do we sit down and self-reflect? When do we say, okay, well, these are the cultures and traditions that I've grown into, that I've been taught? When are we going to say, okay, I think I've had enough mass for the year. Let me just try something else. You know, if we don't practice these things, we very soon will lose them. And in losing them, we've lost ourselves, and we've lost our culture, we've lost our sense of identity as a people. And we become myopic in our vision. We become one-sided in our vision, in what we are and what our culture really represents. Our culture is not just about carnival, you know. Our culture is just so much more. Our traditions are so much more than just playing a mass.
Well, Ms. Duncan, you're very correct. And then one has to probably dig deeper. Is it what we are teaching to our children? Is it the lack of foresight on the part of those who are more experienced?
But we allow
parents?
it. We allow it.
Well, that's what I'm asking. If
that's where it's bad.
Is it what they know that's the only thing they have learned, the youngsters of today? Is it because those who understand the culture far better than I do and knows more about it than I do have not taken the time, the privilege, the opportunity to pass it on, to teach it? What does those different holidays? Is it because the religious bodies are not any longer concerned about the Easter celebration and what it really means, the solemnity of it, and have not passed on that to our children, so that what we convey gives the impression that anytime there is a holiday, anytime there is some time for reflection, and so it is time for mass, it is time for carnival, it is time for the jab style. I mean, a lot of questions need to be asked. I don't have the answers, and I don't pretend to have them. I'm just highlighting what I observe. And maybe there are many people out there who are far more equipped and educated and have a deeper understanding of our culture and what is happening than I do. And maybe can share some light. Maybe can approach, is it the Ministry of Culture? Is it the Cultural Foundation? Who, where? And try to get something happening that can change our outlook on things, that can make us think differently, that can explain what different holidays and festive season, what it's meant, what should be portrayed, how should we celebrate it. Maybe all of that is needed. Maybe these are some of the things that are lacking. So people turn to what they know and what they believe it should be. So we are really changing. The world is changing, I accept. We are not cemented into the past. And we have to move with the times. We have to come of age. But does that mean also that all of the traditional things that we once knew, all of the festive season that we once had, all of the various ways of celebrating, for example, Christmas or Easter or the Lenten season, whatever it may be, have that changed as well? I mean, someone needs to explain. Maybe some people in the religious realm who knows more about those things probably can help us. But it really, really didn't sit well with me from what I saw over those couple days. It was just like a kind of carnival style, and maybe we need to look seriously as to what needs to change to get our people more in tune with what needs to happen.
And this is one of the biggest issues that I have, especially, Mr. Bola, with civil society and, of course, the religious community. It's one of my biggest peeves. Sometimes we speak out, and we have a right to speak out. Nobody can tell you what you should or should not speak out on. But there are a lot more things to be involved in than political melee. Honestly, the biggest or the loudest noise comes about when there is political melee. Things like this that we don't see as an issue would become one of the biggest issues in time to come, Mr. Bola, because there is a very interesting quote that I read or heard or something over the weekend, and I'm trying to find it, but my keyboard in working with me this morning at all for me to Google it. But I will try my best to see if I could find right. It reads, let me see if I could get it here. It reads, your mind is like a garden and your thoughts are like seeds. You are able to choose what seeds you plant in your garden. You can plant seeds of positivity, love, joy, and abundance. Or You can plant seeds of negativity, fear, and scarcity. You can spend your time caring for the garden of others, or you can work on making your garden lush and beautiful. The more beautiful your garden is, the more you will attract other people. And there are a lot of versions, Mr. Bola, of this particular quote. But I just want to say, in reading that we are what we feed our minds. I want to make that very important point. We are what we feed our minds. So if we do not have a healthy balance, if we don't have a healthy balance of what we feed our minds, if we are only focused on one track, on one set of things, it becomes who we are, you know. It controls our character. It influences our decisions. And not only that, it influences the person we become in the future. Let's take, for example, what's happening now with the industrial action and all of that. When you look at the activities of the protests, again, was that not like carnival-like activity? But it was, in Mr. Bola, in essence, just look at it. The beating of the drums, the jumping up without the masks, and so on. It was not a peaceful parade of individuals protesting an action that they felt was unjust to them. If you look at the video, it was like it was like mass.
Well, the beating of the drum and everything, I think that is also cultural because we are of African descent and the drumming is something that is part of us.
That I know.
Right.
Mr. Bola, if anybody know that, it's me. Culture
right,
and drums. That
because
is
you're
me.
a dancer. Now, I understand that.
But it is not just the beating of the drum that is our culture. It is the way in which it is done and the environment and the meaning behind the beating of the drum that makes it a culture. Not just anytime somebody pick up a drum and drum a beat and everybody jump up, we say that it's our culture. It is not. We use that very fluidly to suit us when we want to achieve a common goal. But no. It is beating of our drums is our culture when it is done properly and in the way it is supposed to be done.
But have we taught our young generation? Have we taught our people?
That's what I'm saying. That is what I am saying.
And so I don't want to be criticizing young people when we as elders, and I include myself, have not passed on to them, a lot of what they should know. And as a result, they do what they think they should be doing. So I think it's high time that more of our people who understands history, who knows our culture very well, should find a medium through which they can pass on more to the upcoming generation.
I agree.
So they can grasp a better understanding of what should and shouldn't be, when, where, and how. Because they said you don't condemn a man until you walk a mile in his shoes. Because you don't know what he's going through, you don't know what is happening. And so I was highlighting and not condemning. Because sometimes people get the sense that anytime you open your mouth to say something, it's because you're condemning it. I don't think it was a good thing, but I don't know if these young people knows the alternative to what they're doing. Because in their mind, that is what they may see as celebratory. That is how they believe we need to celebrate everything we have. So whether it's independence or it's Easter, is what? Play a job. Let's play a mass. And in fact, you hear they speak like that, Boy, a holiday coming up, or this weekend we go play a mass, we'll play a mass. That has become a part of speech for us. And so literally, that's what we are doing. We are playing a mass all the time because that's what we say, that's what we repeat. For example, the quote that you did read a while ago. What we feed into our minds is what our minds will regurgitate to us. Because if our minds has nothing else in it, if we doesn't feed our subconscious with any other positive ideas and values, we won't get them. They wouldn't just come magically. We need to consciously be thinking about certain things for it to reoccur to us.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying and I'm begging, and for those who are in authority, please, let's do something to bring a greater understanding to our people of our culture. Let us do what is necessary, because most of us in not too long from now may not be here or may not be actively engaged in a lot of the frontline things that we do now. But if we do not pass on the correct ideas and ideals to those who will be soon taking over, who will soon be in charge, then we're in for a lot of trouble. Because if they don't have these things built in as part of the character now and part of the understanding and the growth process, we don't expect when they get into offices, into the seat of power, where they have the opportunity when that time comes to be the decision makers, for them to make quality decisions. Their decisions will be based on what is instilled in them. So I do hope and pray, and from where I sit and from the people who I communicate with, it's an issue that I'm planning to raise and to hope that something better can come out of it.
Absolutely. We just have to find a starting point. We have to find a way to balance it all, Mr. Bola. We cannot continue in this way. It cannot just be business as usual. When it comes to these things, the leaders in society have to step up to the task. We have to move away from making everything political, from injecting politics into and not just politics, because everything has a hint of politics in it.
Yeah.
But making everything partisan politics. That is where the problem comes in. We see too much in color. We see too much black and white. I'm saying black and white, yellow and green. It's almost as if it's political racism, that if there is such a term, it's almost as if it's political racism. I mean, we have to be very careful, because in the midst of all of this infighting, this political fighting, this push and pull at every turn, we are missing the bigger picture. We are really affecting the young people of this country, and we aren't seeing it. We are not seeing how much these people are being affected, because, as you said, there are really no alternatives. Or if there are alternatives, they are not being encouraged. Where are the parents in the home that's supposed to say, okay, this Easter Sunday, we go into church. There's no if, there's no but, there's no maybe. We go into church. This has been our tradition. This is part of our culture. This is what we do during Easter. Where has that downfall taken place? When did it become just okay for us to accept this as a norm?
Well, I guess you've touched another seed. You start talking about parents. And parenting doesn't come with a manual, that's for sure. And as we've seen for quite a while now, 30, 40 years, younger and younger people are becoming childbearers, both mother and father. So you have some 13 and 14-year-old young men who are fathers, and 12 and 13-year-old girls who have become mothers. I mean, these are people who are still very deep in the learning curve. There's a lot that they still need to know and to understand about life itself, to be given on and to take on the responsibility of bringing up a child properly. There was an era when there was more or less what was referred to as the extended family. So when you went into a yard, I know and as you mentioned, in politics, we refer to them as big yards. That is where there may be several houses or 2 or 3 huge houses with quite a lot of people in each one, 10, 12 sometimes, 3, 4 bedrooms. Or in that one yard, you may find 5 or 6 different little houses where the grandmother still lives with a daughter or a granddaughter living with them, and the grandfather lives there, and then the mother lives in another house, and there's a sister there and a brother there and a grandchild who all build around the same place. So you had that sort of community in a yard.
Right.
So when there's a small child, everyone had that responsibility. Everyone within the yard, within the family, had a responsibility. It was not just that young lady, whether she did that child within or out of wedlock, as we call it. But grandma is there to help train and develop that child. Great grandma is there, auntie is there, uncle is there, a bigger brother is there, a cousin is around. So someone always or would most likely have a lookout, an eye for the child. These days, life and livelihood had become a lot more private. Everyone shack up in their own little apartment, in their little place, fenced around. And we have become very, very private with our affairs. We don't discuss family issues in our body again. So if there's some issue happening between a husband and wife, whereas before the elders in the community was brought up to speed with it and may call in the couple, or the couple may go into them for some kind of advice. You may go into the pastor, to the priest. These days, not much of that is being done. Everything is a lot more secretive. And so people grow apart instead of growing closer to each other. And we have not been able to pass on as much as we should. There's not that learning curve because the consumerism has taken us up so much that whereas before, and please don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with females finding jobs and becoming professionals. Nothing is wrong with that. It's just that over the decade, we are seeing more and more ladies taking over the job market, becoming CEOs and managers and principals and senior police officers and so. So the responsibility and workload on the job becomes much more. And in my mind, they have not yet been able to get a correct balance between doing that, yes, some or most I will say, and still tending to the affairs at home. And while their absence in the home is creating a void for the children, a lot of the husbands or fathers or sperm donors, as some people refer to them, are not filling in the void. They are not taking up that responsibility to assist where the female. So hold on, before you coming, I know you're ready to get at me. So my point really is, and I went all that way to come home with the point, is not saying women should not be breadwinners, that they should not become professionals, that they should not take on the responsibility of becoming a judge or a lawyer or a politician and so. It's good when you have the mix. It sends the right message to our young girls and young boys out there that we are equal. We can both do. But I believe what is necessary when children are in the mix, some more planning must be done. The division of responsibilities must be clearly marked out, and so children are not left on their own to fend and to learn and to find things out, because you have cases where both mothers and fathers are working, and a lot of what the children learn is not from the parents because they don't get much quality time with the parents. Parents are out to work, they get home late, they might prepare a little supper. In fact, there are some 7 and 8 year olds that have learned very early, and nothing is wrong with that, how to prepare their supper and get themselves ready for bed, because by the time mom and dad arrives at home, it's time for bed also. And when they get up in the morning, is to hustle for school, get dropped off by mommy or daddy because they have to get to work for a certain time. So they have become now that cutoff of quality time with parents and children. Again, I say I'm not the expert. It's just my understanding of what is happening. And I really do hope that we'll take some more time as parents to find a way to carve out some quality time with our children so they can learn from us. Or we can learn together. Because some of us as parents still need to learn a lot.
So basically, there needs to be more collaboration. I'll take that. I'll take that. There needs to be more collaboration in the home between parents,
Yes.
both parents.
Yes.
Because yes, women have become a lot more self-sufficient, a lot more interested in building themselves, a lot more empowered, as we should be, but there must be more collaboration. And of course, it is also important to teach our young men as well that the role of a woman it is not just the role of a woman to take care of the children, to instill values and morals into the children. In some cases, you'd see an incident happens and the parent or the male in the home would say, your mother gonna handle it, or speak to your daughter, or speak to your child, in that sort of way, because it has been passed down from generation to generation, no fault of the individual, that a woman must deal with these things, that it is a woman's role to deal with the discipline and these sorts of things. So I think it needs to start from very young, that it must be a collaborative effort, that whenever you have children, and this is something that I think we should start speaking about with our young people at a very young age, because before you're waiting until they get to a certain age where you can have these conversations with them, but these days you can't really take them kind of chance because you just don't know what is going to happen. As you said, there are a lot of young people that are parents now that have been forced into parenthood, that have made their own decision, and the repercussions of their actions resulted in children, and it is not the child's fault that they have been brought into the world, but they must be brought up properly, so that they don't add to the burden of what is already there. So I think there needs to be a lot more conversation, Mr. Bola, surrounding how we move forward, because it's really easy to identify problems, but in most cases it's very hard to come up with solutions or get people to come up with actual solutions to deal with these problems. So I think going forward we need to start looking at ways in which we can deal with these kind of problems so that there's a proper balance, there's an equitable balance of responsibility when it comes to the raising of children, and also that our children, those that are now in their teens, young adults, have other options in terms of entertainment, can broaden their horizons as opposed to just play a mass. We have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Oh, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning to the dog.
Morning to you, sir.
After 3 years. I don't know if you missed me after 3 years. I traveled for about 3 years. I'm back.
I accept that.
So how is everybody?
Good. How was your weekend? How was your Easter?
Just quiet.
Good,
Enjoy
man.
everything.
Good.
Before I go to the topic, let me say this to you. Second radio station, maybe the only other radio station. I got a vision direction, that Grenada is facing a crisis and destruction, and I'm asked to pass it on to the nation, that we have to go down in deep sackcloth and ash prayer to avoid that disaster that is coming. And I'm also passing that to all the religious bodies to do that very urgently. I was told to say that to the nation,
Yes.
and I'm saying it as I got it. So
Okay.
that is the message.
Okay.
But I tell you something, sir. I don't know how more expert you want to be over the topic. You are so so right. I know that you're a very smart guy and you're technical too. What you said there is exactly what is happening. Now, I don't know if you could go back to 1972 when that right was given to women, equal pay for equal work. That was declared by the United Nations, 1972. And from that day, the men started struggling to manage their homes, and children started to scatter. We started to put more women in the workplace than men. And as you said rightly, you don't want to discriminate. But I say we have to discriminate in order to create a balance. It's in the interest of the ladies and it is in the interest of the children to ensure that we have men folk being put in the workplace to take total responsibility for the home. I'm not saying certain women must not work, but there is too much women in the workforce and less men in key critical areas to take responsibility for the home. And then who pays for that? It's the young children. So we have to find that balance. We may have to discriminate and say, look, I'm not going to put you to work when there is a young man who needs to get the same job, because let a woman chase behind him. And so it's better that a woman is chasing behind him because he has a work than he can't get a work. And then he have to chase down the women. You have a problem there. So the solution to the problem, we have to start putting more young men in the workforce and holding them responsible. Let me tell you, I'll go watch. I don't want to take too much time, but here's what I would do. If I give you a job as a young man and you have a wife or a girlfriend, there will never be a moment when that lady will come to my workplace and says, "Sir, did you pay John this month? Because John I didn't see John bring any money." I'm going to call John the following morning and say, "John, your wife or your girlfriend came here asking if I paid you. What did you do with the money?" That is the last time, sir. The next time she has to come here to ask this question, it's the last time you will get a job. You will not be able to work with my company and disregard your home, your children, or your wife. And if we start doing that at the workplace, or managers start doing that at the workplace to ensure that the workers we have with us, the men, take responsibility, we'll have this neglect. So we have to bring that in the workplace to, sir, you're working with me. I want to know that your children and wife is well taken care of. Other than that, you will not be able to work with me. You'll have to find another place. And if everybody says the same thing, let me tell you, we'll have better men and we'll have better women in the home, better children. I will leave it there because it's a very big topic.
All right. I thank you for that. That is one way of looking at it. It may not sit well with a lot of people, especially the women folks.
Like me, Mr. Bola. Let me just hold on. I want to just collect myself, and I need to respond to especially this. Now, as a single mother, Mr. Bola, the last thing I would ever want to have to do is to depend on a male figure in such a way that to meet my needs or the needs of my children in such a way where I had to find myself at his place of employ to speak to his boss about not getting money. Mr. Bola, that would be the death of me. And I'm sure that would be the death of a lot of women out there. I would rather get a job myself and take care of my family myself than to do something like that. But it also speaks to something greater, Mr. Bola. It speaks to the issue of men understanding their responsibility in the home, or both parties understanding their responsibility. If there is a mutual agreement that you must do X and I must do Y, then that is okay. But we have a situation where you have a lot of young unwedded couples having children, where you have a lot of young single mothers trying to fend for themselves. Because, and this is not for all men, and I'm not coming long on men, but it is a reality. where a lot of them are not standing up to the plate after the decision. Two of us lie down, we both made the decision to do what we did. We both reaped
That
the
time they
consequence.
stand up, boy. They stand up.
We both reaped the consequence of that decision. So I feel in myself that we both must now stand up to the plate and take care of the responsibility. But you do not have that happening a lot, especially now with a lot of young couples. We don't have that happening a lot. We have a lot of situations where there are a lot of single mothers, where you see a lot of young women doing a lot of things that they really are not supposed to do to take care of their children. You know?
But just on that point, you know, I don't want to cut your train, but just on that point, a lot of young women doing a lot of things they probably should not have to do to take care of their children, because the young men or the men, not necessarily all of them that's be young, has just stepped away, have reclused themselves from the good situation that they was in, and allow all the burden to remain. But shouldn't that in and of itself be a learning experience for those coming through, not to allow this similar thing to happen to them?
But the problem is, Mr. Bola, a lot of women struggle in silence, meaning that they struggle to take care of their families and not showing the children, this is what I have done to take care of you. So some children are there and they see they get X, they get Y, they get Z. They don't know how their mother come by it. They're very well taken care of and all of that. But they do not know the consequences behind all of that. So they think it's business as usual. They think it's okay to be a single parent, because there are a lot of strong women out there just taking care of their business by themselves. You know, and while that is a good thing, while that is probably a commendable thing, it also gives this problem where there are people out there just acting irresponsibly because they see that there are women who can do it by themselves. You know, so it creates this, especially for some of the young men. Hey, well, she doing it, so I don't have to bother. You know, or she could handle man. Hey, oh look, my mother was a single mother and she take care of me, so why you can't do the same? You know, we have that kind of mindset. So it's a good and a bad, you know, in itself. But there needs to be more education surrounding. And I do not agree. I think we have moved out of this place where a woman must stay home and take care of the house and the children, and the husband must go out and seek. We've moved completely and totally away from that, because then you would find a situation where if that man who is accustomed to taking care of the home, something happened to him, then what? The home falls apart. There's no breadwinner. There's nobody to. When equal rights and freedoms came in and equal pay and everything came in, then there should be equal distribution in the household as well. Everything must be cut down the middle, all across the board.
Well, I hope we will get to that place where there is much better balance, where the responsibilities of everything within a relationship and a family is being shared. We have lost the whole moral aspect of family values. You know, where mother and father needs to share, in the upbringing of the child. It's about who is now the Gorgon, that's what they call it. I'm the Gorgon, the man who can drop sperm in different places and, impregnate 3-4 girls at the time. He's the one that is celebrated. I mean, come on, this is a topic that is no longer a taboo issue, and so people can call. And I know there's a few people on the live are giving their views, and I mean, we really didn't intend to get way into that kind of topic this morning. We were really just talking about why are some of our young people so defiant. You know, why has the morals and the objects of what we need to do in society has fallen apart so deeply. And then we segued into the whole issue of parenting, and parents need to do more. And there we have a big topic on our hand. People are commenting. And so Ms. Young can take the next couple minutes just to read some of that, and then we'll get back to the phone line. Yes.
Someone is saying, today there are more women in higher education than men. We have evolved from manual labor to the service economy. The moral of the story, men should get educated. Someone else is saying, highly educated, innovative, and multifaceted women are leading the way forward. Men will simply follow. All right. We have a caller on the line. Let's take this call. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Miss Duncan.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Buller. How are you all long weekend holiday?
We are fine.
Yes, I recognize in the voice, man. Everything was okay for the time being?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I love the topic presently concerning to do. Speak about the young men and people in general. Right? And one of the things that I do believe, men, well as ladies, don't know their real responsibility as parents. You know, sometimes as a man, I always say to myself, like, we could say like the man is want to go out and bring home the food for his family. While the wife will be home doing all the housework. But one of the things I always say, the men will always hardly want to wash, but the women do more of the washing. Right? But I always say, yes, you as a man you go home, you go out and bring in the food. But when you come back home, your wife home wash it outside. You don't have a washing machine. Then you have back washing in the sink. And you go say as a man, yes, I go and bring the food. So it's your turn not to cook the food. I don't see that way. I see you go and bring the food and she doing something. You go in the kitchen and cook. So when you cook the food and you both of you all work hard for the day. And when the time reach and both of you all want to make love, the love will be more enjoyable because both of you are tired. But when she's tired and you rest for the whole day, I feel that is unfair to her, unfair to the lady. Right? So I call upon men. Also, know what is your role. And one of the things again, Mr. Duncan, Mr. Buller, yes, some men, the way they treat ladies, like if the lady won't make it fair, they have a child, both of them made a decision to have a baby. And happened that something happened where they're not together again. And that child have to go through the hardship because their relationship failed. I would say to men, that person you had a child will always be your woman, but your child always be your child. Maintain your child. Maintain your child. You're not no longer with that lady. You show appreciation to that lady. Still, because she can put a child for you. Love your child. Cherish your child. Because it's your child. It's your child because today at one point that child might become a doctor and you don't mind that child. And when the child becomes within a position, you say, yes, that's my son. But the question, what input are you have in that child could be reaching where that child is? I would say to your men and young ladies, you're in a relationship honest to one another. Yes, one may be something may happen and then you all depart, but don't forsake your child. Keep and maintain your child. I want to look at take an example. We have to follow as adults. We have to follow the right example. And many times we see breakdown into say, well, many times we have to blame the young people. But we have to look at ourselves as adults. What are we doing? What example are we setting? Are we setting the right example for the young people to follow? Because we say the young people is the future of tomorrow. But if we set a negative example, you know what the result, what we want to be. So let us look at the children. See, we love the children. Let us lead by good example as adults. Let us grow them up in the right way. And because one thing, Mr. Duncan, you know, like sometimes as a Christian person, you might go out and do witness and invite the parents to attend church or let their children come to church. I know what they say. They go say the children are clothes. But when carnival, other activities, they will buy the dearest clothes for the child to go and play. So you see where they lead the child to. All right? So as your parents, take the role. Go to church, accept Christ as the Lord and Savior, and grow up your child in the spiritual way. Because spiritual way is the right way to go. So, Mr. Duncan, Mr. Bola, you all have a wonderful day. God bless you all.
Thank you, man. You be good.
Thank you.
Yeah. This topic, Mr. Bola, would take a lot. But I think the message that we are trying to get in all of this is that there has been a breakdown at some point in some way. And we need to find that balance once again. So that everything that we do and everything that our young people do, it's not just one-sided. You know, that we're not just looking at it from one area. We have another caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you guys doing?
Hi, we're good.
Good morning.
All right. So I realized that the topic went to the aspect of parents and children and everything, but I want to rewind a bit when you guys was talking of culture.
Okay, great.
And it's a word that is commonly, used very loosely.
Yeah.
Not only in Grenada, but in quite a few places.
Yeah.
We tend to look at why, culture is being changed and everything like that. But the question is, how could someone embrace or know what is the real culture when history is not something being documented and passed on, one, and when the people that understand it itself doesn't even know how to upkeep it? Let's just take, for example, Mr. Bowler.
Yes.
You from La Poterie area,
Yes.
Tivoli area.
Yes, sir.
What emphasis is being placed on things like Saraka?
Yeah.
Well, only that we do it year after year. A few of us have a little understanding why it's done, but for the majority of people, it's just a lime, eat some food, and have a good time. As we
Okay.
say, play a mass.
But that is part of our culture.
Yes, it is.
The same jab. Or we just look at jab as being black and a cow horn, a chain, a saltfish tail or whatever, and you're going on with some jambalasi or whatever. But what is the history behind jab? What does it represent? What does it symbolize? Is that being passed on to a young generation? I'm 28 years. And if I wasn't push up and fast and like to research my thing, those things I wouldn't know about.
Absolutely.
In our education system, what is being placed there to educate the youths that are going to school? And listen, jab, it's a part of what means devil, However, it's just a replication as to the emancipation of our forefathers or ancestors when they got up. You understand? What is being invested in the generation that is rising up? So we tend to talk about culture. We tend to talk about all these kind of things and how it's been changing, but how could it be preserved? How could it be maintained when it's not even being taught right?
Absolutely.
Even a caller a while ago spoke about church and spirituality. When I was younger, I didn't have a choice but to go to church. Nowadays, you see little children going to church, and one of the main reasons why they go into church is because a lot of the times there are parents, and I'm not saying everybody, I'm going to give some examples. There are parents that have a child, and because they want to get the child off their back for a little bit to do what they want, they send it by nene and granny and parent, and nene and granny have the real deep sense of spirituality, and they home with me, so you have to go to church. So when they reach a specific age where they can look after themselves, so mommy and daddy don't need to send them by nene and parent again, they don't have that sense of responsibility, and sense of knowledge towards, spirituality and stuff like that. So a lot of the things that we look at, we say Christmas and Easter, and we look at that aspect.
Yeah.
We look at that aspect for in Grenada as to how things are changing. But where is the sense of family? I look at the Grenada system, and trust me, the institution of family has dilapidated and been destroyed tremendously.
Yeah.
We don't pay respect, so we do not invest in the institution of family.
Yep,
So how
yep,
could
that's
the
true.
values of Easter and Christmas remain in our society when we ourselves as Grenadians do not invest our time and do not invest in building on the institution of family?
Yes.
And sometimes we want to blame it on parenting. Yes, but how could I instill something in my child that I don't even know about, that was never passed on to me? So all of those things we need to look at. Sometimes we don't look at the minor stuff, but there are some bigger issues that we need to look at that are contributing to a lot of the issues that we are facing.
Yeah.
Young people are not being guided properly.
Yeah.
Because we lose a sense of moral values in our country. We lose a sense of the social values. I know when I was young, Easter time, well, you get like a time to fly kite. But Easter Sunday, even if you don't go to church, but that Sunday morning, there are certain things as a family you do.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve and thing, you make it like a line by Christmas Eve, but Christmas Day, You don't care how much technology you have. You don't care about all them things. But family, from sometimes even once you see that family member for the year, it's Christmas. Because everybody coming together, the table long watch now. You're looking forward to Christmas Day because things that you ain't eaten a long time, you're getting that because you know. So where are those kind of values and where are those kind of, systematic instillments that we used to have? And those are the things we need to look at. We talk about culture. I commonly say, I had a big argument about 2 months back. I said it, and I'm not afraid to say Grenada has no culture. None whatsoever. We only use that word. Because as far as I see in Grenada here, we just look at another country, we look at television shows, we look at this, and we see something we like you to pick it up, and we go with it. Grenada has no culture. It's monkey see, monkey do, and I see that, I like that, I do that. We have no culture. So, that is the direction in which we're driving to. And we're going on a very steep hill very fast, and there need to be placed some mechanisms in preserving what we have. That one may match a lot of people too. A lot of the things that are supposed to be our culture is being demonized by our own people. Sorry, ouch, but it is being demonized by our own people. That one will really match people. If you look at the religious aspect, we have spiritual Baptists. A lot of the things of spiritual Baptists is culture, Grenadian culture, but because it's being demonized, and a lot of people may give reasons because it's from Africa, even this and blah blah. But the explanation, Minister Bola, you're from up that side, Senator Bola, sorry, you're from up that side again. A lot of the things in the back of the days of
Mother
Annie and them. You understand?
I was your neighbor,
Listen to me, man. I'm from Tivoli. And the thing is, we used to look forward to a specific time of the year. The community will come out by Donovan, by Alban. Listen, and we go out to those things. Nowadays, it's being demonized because people do not have the understanding. And these things are in books. Look at, there was this Reverend Norman Paul. A dynamic man in the spiritual field in history gone by. He wrote a book. We have all kind of books in school, right? And the museum has a book called The Dark Puritan. What's a book that is written about Norman Paul? And when you read that book, then you'll understand where the majority of the Africans would have settled in Munich, and that's why we still have the cassava and thing coming out of
Munich.
So where is the things being passed on?
You better call the name of that book again.
Dark Puritan.
Dark Puritan.
Yes, it's a book about the life of Norman Paul, how he left, how he lived in Grenada, he grew up with his mother, his father, how his mother died, all these things, all these things. When he left to go to Trinidad, there's a bit about Uriah Butler in that book too, a Grenadian that left Grenada, go because of opportunity, he joined fighting World War I. Come back Grenada to join Union thing, end up in Trinidad in the oil. All these things. But in our educational system that is being systematically set up, we learn about Columbus, we learn about this, we learn about that, and all this kind of things that is not contributing to our culture and who we are as a people.
You know that the area where Norman Paul lived in Tivoli and had his church and so is being named after him, right?
Yes. I tell you, I'm from Tivoli, I'm from John Baptist, Mr. Bola.
Well, you're just on the other side. And Norman Paul.
You understand what I'm saying? So these are the kind of things that we need to get back.
I never heard about the book,
culture, and we want to talk about heritage, and we want to talk about these things. These are the things we need to get back to. We're going to have a real slippery slope.
We are.
Good, but let me just say one thing before you run out from us. People like you, right? And I'm not trying to put any weight on your shoulder.
Sure.
But who has a better understanding? And we raised it because I feel a little peeved about what I saw over the weekend. I mean, it's been happening time and time again. And I think some people get the sense that I'm against jab. I said I played jab. I didn't know much about it, but I played because I'm over 50 years now. And since I knew myself, I knew jab. And no jab are wrong. So it has to have some kind of meaning for us. But does it mean that every opportunity we get, that's all we had to do? And
because the sense of purpose, the sense of meaning, the representation of it, we lost that.
Yes.
We lost that. As a child growing up, I never like job, and when I see a job that
It's run.
I run in. However, I get older and I research, and I tell you it's because of fastness and pompousness. You know, you want knowledge. You're interested in knowing things. I inquired and I find out how it was created, how it come about.
Yes.
These kind of things.
Yeah.
And so when we get back that sense of purpose and sense of representation, it will be respected more.
Yeah.
We'll be respected more. I'm sorry, but look at it. Look at our carnival. More emphasis is being placed on Monday night mass and fancy mass now than Veco, Shotney, Shakespeare mass and those kind of things. And these are the things that are a part of our culture, not fancy mass and Monday night mass. These are things that we would have picked up on the way. But because of the lack of knowledge, we will gravitate into other people's things and making it our own.
So how can you help? What are
How
you
can I
willing
help?
to do?
Trust
Yes,
me. You see things like this speaking out and trying to get people. But the problem is, because, for lack of a better word, because we are so brainwashed and poisoned in our head, when you sit down to have conversation like that with people, Mr. Bola, it tends to turn out into an argument, and it's hasty argument, so sometimes I just back off.
Right.
But I am in a process now of going to mediums and social media become Uncle Corona. He bad, but one good thing came out of Uncle Corona.
Uncle Corona.
Yeah, Uncle Corona did one good thing. You see the use of media to reach an international forum. Trust me, and never churches have more members online now than they have in person.
That's
Uncle
true.
Corona.
That's true.
You understand what I'm saying? So I these are things that I'm looking to get into using those mediums. We everybody want to do live, but most 99.9% of the live that people doing on Facebook is you can't gain no knowledge from it. You can't, So these are the things that I'm looking into now to try and instill some training, instill some knowledge into people. Personally, I'm a spiritual Baptist by religion. You understand? And I am not a spiritual Baptist by religion because of just where it comes from, but because of knowledge of who I am and who was before me and those kind of things. But then again, how could someone just see? Look today, from the time you see a spiritual Baptist, it's been categorized in a particular way. Yeah. Right? And do people take the time off to understand? Because trust me, like for example, it's associated with magic and witchcraft and things. Trust me, anybody could do that. Anybody could get themselves into it. Anybody can partake in it. That is not what it's made of. But because the lack of knowledge being passed on our history is being just swiped under our feet, our culture, you understand? Because the same Saraka, part of Saraka, when they in the night time with the nation dance, it's something like what we used to call Shango.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Look at Carriacou with the big drum and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You go in Carriacou and you speak to some people that be a part of the big drum. When you talk to a drum and he'll explain the vibration and how he beat the drum and certain things will happen when he beat the drum and all these kind of things. All these things are part of spiritual Baptist too. But however, we only look at one idea because of we're being so brainwashed over the years, and our educational system is doing a very perfect job in brainwashing the younger generation coming up. You understand? Because the older folks getting old, they ain't passing on the language. Because look at, for example, I grew up with some old people, boy, only when they used to want to talk patois is when they want to talk for you not to understand, but they never put you sit down and say, listen, me, X by Y by Z. And we lost that.
Yes.
I had the privilege of going to St. Lucia.
Yes.
And the youngest child will give you some patois. You go in the market and they realize you're a tourist. It's no self. They can't talk no other language but patois.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of things that we need to really instill. And it's heartbreaking when you do research and you find out certain things. Mandarin is a compulsory subject to be learned in Africa now, and that's Chinese I'm speaking of. You understand? It's a compulsory, and I'm just using that abroad, whereby Africa has so many different tribal language that is not being preserved and not being instilled into the younger generation, and other people think, and we're making it a priority to learn other people think.
Well, they had to make Mandarin a priority now, because China is who controls Africa.
Reality is reality, but I'm just using it as an example.
Yeah.
So in Grenada, I was going to school, it was mandatory that you do a foreign language, but you could have dropped English.
Yeah.
You understand? So people going and write CXC, getting grade 1 in English and French, and getting grade 4 and 5 in English.
Yeah.
What really going on?
Yeah.
You understand? So these are the things that we need to look at. And as I'm saying, we talk about culture, we talk about heritage and tradition, and we must first address the education system. That's one of the first things. I'm not trying to bash and say the Minister of Education, because we don't run with the wrong notion, or the Minister of Education not doing it. Listen to me. This thing is higher than the Minister of Education. And you in politics for a number of years, Mr. Bowler, so you'll understand that. Because a lot of the things that we get in school is being stipulated by the CXC and
they send you the syllabus as they call it.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we need to start to do some things now to actually make some difference.
But caller, let me just say as well, as a country and as educators, we can also make it our duty to ensure that our students learn these things, because there are things outside of the syllabus that our students are exposed to and that our students learn. And I always say our education system is so much more than just what is taught in schools.
Correct, is right.
It's every single experience that a child is exposed to. So a child don't have to go to the classroom and sit down and learn something to be educated. They can go to a community center, they can listen to a podcast, they can watch a video. These are things that help in educating our students. So what I think needs to happen is more people need to want to do it. More people need to just get up and get it done for them to be educated about it, and not just place it in the hands of what we term as the education system.
Correct, is right. No, and you're rightfully so, because even like, for example, with me, I was thrown out of history class in Form 2. And because at a very young age, growing up in the parish of St. Andrews, being around certain things, having a basic knowledge of certain things, and sometimes when certain things will be seen in history school class, I was brave enough to say, Miss, here what going on. All due respect, but X by Y by Z. And it was seen as I'm challenging the teacher.
Well, you should.
You get what I'm saying?
Students should challenge their teacher, and that makes the learning experience better.
It wasn't seen as a constructive part of the education system. It was seen as you being disrespectful, or you know what I'm saying? You can come and tell me that Columbus discovered Grenada such and such, and when I knew he had people here before, so he come tell me discovered. You know what I'm saying? When
he discovered
an African emperor by the name of Massa Musa, who is up to this day, and history will prove it, is the richest man that ever lived on the face of the earth. There is nobody that would have ever accumulated as much riches as that man, that would have discovered America. And you come and tell me about Columbus. So I will challenge those statements, and I will bring my facts, but they will see it as, oh, you're challenging the teacher, you're being disrespectful, you're being that, and we don't see it as, oh, we need to adjust certain things. And, oh, since that you have so much knowledge, let's have a discussion about it. And, up to this day.
So tell me, you keep saying that you grew up in June, but is your father a spiritual Baptist as well?
My father is a spiritual Baptist. Mr. Boy,
I just want to get to know who I'm speaking to.
You know who you're speaking to.
I do know now. That's why I ask you that question. It's good to hear you, man. It's good to hear you. And thanks for at least listening so you could get a chance to make your contribution.
Sure.
We really do appreciate, and I just want to encourage you. It doesn't have to be a crowd. 1, 2, whatever you can get to help impart your knowledge and encourage them to research our history, that would make a whole world of difference. Because, you would know in church, you all sing that too, to brighten the corner where you are. So if you give a little light to 2, and then they give, each of them give a light to 2, 2 by 2. One by one, Jesus called them by the number.
Exactly. But, I'm doing my bit on my end to see how, but I wish that, as I said, we need to actually start to preserve the little that we have.
Yes.
Start to preserve, start to actually educate our young ones, even the old ones, because some of the old ones really need some education too.
Yes.
But that's one of the angles that I think that we should look into to actually curve what we actually see going on. Yeah. And before it reaches to a stage where it's irreversible, now is the time.
Absolutely.
Thank you
so much for your call. It's been very good conversation.
All right, have a good one then.
All right.
You'll be good. Take care.
Maybe about a year or two it's been so long being here, that I had a conversation with Mr. Keynes Douglas surrounding this exact topic of culture and of us being very careful in not losing parts of our culture by not exposing our young people to it. You know, and we spoke about dancing and drumming, because, you know, these are the things that I'm passionate about. And even teaching our young people some of the things that some of the things that we now know. We don't do it. A lot of the things that a lot of the countries around us have adapted, and I ain't gonna say is their culture, but have adapted and made it their culture, that came originally from us, you know.
Yeah.
But we are losing our culture to other countries who are now making it their culture, and we see that as okay. We just sit down and let it happen. And I think we are too much consumed, Mr. Bola, and I'll continue to say that day after day after day. We are way too consumed in playing partisan politics than anything else. We need to now remove a lot of the politics in what we do and start thinking about country. Patriotism is not about who you vote for, who you support, with administration you stand up with. Being a Grenadian is not about which industrial action you participate in and rights and freedoms and you bellow it whenever it suits you. It's not about that. It encompasses so much more than that. It encompasses our traditions and our culture, who we are as a people, who we are as individuals. And I think globalization, while globalization is great, it teaches our children how to adapt to the outside world. What we have also allowed globalization to do is change who we are in our own space. And that is such a dangerous thing. And you see, we can't really blame the young people, as you say, if we have not been showing them, if we have not been examples for them. We can't really tell them, hey, are they going down the wrong road, when we have not shown them alternative paths to take. So it's something that we really need to sit down on. When I look on social media and I see children, I want to say children because I was a child too. Young people, stop that. I was a child too. When I see children, they're forced to grow up too fast. They are forced, the expression, they are forced to engage themselves in conversations that don't really help build them. You know, a lot of propaganda and hearsay and the blatant disrespect for elders, and we laughing at it and thinking it's funny and so on. And then we wander down the line where we went wrong or what happened, and then we turn around and we blame certain people or we blame certain political parties. And we don't realize that the problem is bigger than any political party, you know. The problem is bigger than any politics that we can play. It has to start with us understanding that we are Grenadian, but also understanding what the definition of being Grenadian is. That is where it has to start.
Do you know what the definition of being Grenadian is?
I don't even know what the definition of being Grenadian is.
No, I just asked.
But that is where we have to start, Mr. Bola. We have to start with understanding
we need to define
what being
what
a Grenadian is. A Grenadian is not an NNP or an NDC. And I think we have gone down that line very dangerously, so that we have divided our people and divided our country just by playing a little bit too much politics. Where everything that comes up now, you have an industrial action coming up. They don't look at it as public service against the administration, public service NNP against public servants. You know, that's how it's classed, and it's silly, it's dangerous, because of it, we have our young people now calling our prime minister by first name, Keith. You understand? We have our young people going into social forums where they're being addressed by the prime minister and writing all kind of derogatory stories and thinking that it's funny and thinking that it's okay. And that is a problem.
Is it that some comments we have on the
We
WhatsApp?
do have quite a bit of comments on the WhatsApp.
Can you get through a few of them? We don't have a lot of time left.
I
can.
This person is saying, good morning. We have children making children. What do you expect from young people? Another point is artists. What do they sing? Everything is to jump up and wave and party. What are you saying about the amount of rum that is being produced in Grenada? It also has an effect on the young people to be behaving like this. The men of our nation have all gone to the drain, drinking rum, smoking marijuana, and left the woman to do everything by themselves. And these are just comments that are coming from the live video feed. Someone is bigging up the caller. They said that was very informative. They said that the caller should start a YouTube channel to help teach us about our history, which is a good idea. There are a lot of ways now we can use social media to, interact and to teach and so people can learn. But all in all, Mr. Bolam, we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. Somebody had to start.
We have to start somewhere, but we have to start soon as well.
And soon, yes.
Not just somewhere, but soon.
Yeah.
But I really would like to take that issue much beyond our radio program. And I will take it upon myself to speak to the people in authority and of influence. It's not necessarily a governmental thing, but if
not.
government can come on board and start putting the structures in place and inviting people, because it is something across the board that all of us need to pay some level of attention to, because the effects that are negative are going to affect every single one of us. I mean, some of us sometimes feel that we're behind our closed door or our fenced property and it doesn't matter me. No, it matters to every single one of us, because it doesn't matter where we are. If negative things are happening in our country, the connotation that goes out there is going to affect every one of us in a negative way. So we all should play our part, irrespective, as you say, of our political affiliation, because doing what's right for Grenada has little to do with the political party you support.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's about doing what needs to be done in the time when it needs to be done and giving our support to what's right for our people. And that will not take away from you your ability to comment or to criticize if there's a need to, or to oppose when you need to oppose. It's about doing the correct thing in the correct way, and I really do hope that this discussion today would have enlightened some people, but also would have opened up the eyes of others and have them realize that all of us need to do something, and it doesn't have to be a major thing, as someone suggests, or open a YouTube channel. Maybe you don't have to do that if you can't, or there's not a need to. But maybe there are two people in the community where you live, in the village that you reside in, that from time to time you can have a conversation with them and share the knowledge of what you know about our history, about our culture, about where we came from, and how having an understanding of that can help us to move forward. 2 by 2, 1 by 1, wherever you are doing your own little thing, just try to make sure that what you're saying to people are actually factual, are things that can be tested, proof, tested to be correct, that you're not making up information and you're not trying to spread untruths about things that didn't happen to say they happened, about dates and events that never occurred.
Absolutely.
Try to make sure that what you're sharing are really relevant, truthful, factual information. And I do believe bit by bit, if we consciously attempt that, and it doesn't have to be a young people, it may be a young parent that you notice have not been doing things the proper way in terms of how they are dealing with their children. And you don't go to that person as though you are the boss, bossing them and pushing them around.
Yeah.
But when the opportunity avails itself, you tell them that maybe you just wanted to have a word about an observation that you had.
Yeah.
And, you speak in a very, very humble way, because sometimes, even when we're trying to correct people or trying to lead them along the right path, the way in which we do it can make a lot of difference. Remember, when you have a little kitten, Duncan, how would you call it when you want it to come for milk?
Different ways?
What are the different ways you call your kitten?
Here, kitty, 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 kitty.
Yeah. Puss, 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 come. Yeah? You say that? Different ways. And when you want to drive it away, what do you say?
Mash.
Mash to a kitten? Okay. Mash to a kitten. It's the first time I hear that. Kitten.
Mash.
Mash?
Yes.
You really
Not
never
funny.
had.
I know I don't have no animals.
You never had a kitten.
I've
Now,
had kittens,
the
yes,
point I'm
I've
trying
had.
to make here, because I was talking about how do you approach people sometimes when you want to correct them. You have a little kitten, you have a cat, you go, puss, 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 come. You give it milk, you give it whatever it has to eat. But when it gets you on the wrong side, you drive it in the same way, puss.
Yeah.
So the same way in which you call it lovingly to come to you is the same way in which you get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the point I want to make here is the approach we make sometimes to people could determine whether they would learn from us and accept us or whether they would reject us.
Yeah.
And rebel against us. So, my friends, it was never our intention to get into the whole issue of parenting and whether men are holding their own in the family and whether women should spend more time on work or balance between work and family affairs and child rearing and childbearing, and all of those things never was our intention. We just wanted to highlight some of what we saw happen over the vacation. But that's what radio show and talk show is. It's very dynamic, it's very open. People are going to come up with ideas and throw things into not necessarily a tailspin, but broaden the topic than you actually was hoping for. But be that as it may, I just want to remind all of our listeners as we close, all those who have participated, we want to thank you. I mean, there was a host of people sending updates on the live, on the WhatsApp, and we appreciate. We just can't get to read every single one of them. And some of them are very similar to what others said. But we thank you. We thank you for listening. We thank all of our callers. It is because of you our program continues to grow in stature, and we continue to spread whatever little bit of facts and information we have. Continue to listen to HARDTALK, continue to be part of the process, continue to feed us with information that you have. But don't forget, in order for us to deal with once and for all and really, really put a clamp on this coronavirus, we must take our vaccine.
And with that, I want to just give quickly the dates and locations for the vaccination for the month of April. The Ministry of Health has released a calendar of events showing
a calendar with places.
Yes, where they'll be vaccinated. Today, the 6th of April, they'll be at Radisson. Tomorrow, Wednesday, at the National Stadium, and Thursday at Radisson again. They will be at the stadium and Radisson on Friday, and the stadium at Radisson on Saturday. That is for this week.
And from 9 to 2.
That is from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. You just walk with a valid piece of identification. And of course, as we always say, speak to your health practitioner first. Make sure that you are up to stature. You're feeling well, before you go and you get vaccinated. And if you have any reservations, speak to the right people. But there'll also be a pop-up drive-through on Thursday the 23rd. I'm seeing at Radisson, but I'm not sure if it's a pop-up drive-through that's staying. I assume drive-through would mean driving around, but I could be. But I'll find out some more information at that. They'll be in Munich on the 16th, La Porterie, Tivoli, Chantemel on the 17th, Certes on the 21st, Hermitage on the 22nd, Grenville on the 29th, and
Grenville meaning the tongue.
the
proper?
tongue of Grenville, because I'm also seeing St. Andrew on the 30th. So I'm not sure exactly where in St. Andrew, but I guess as the weeks go by, they will be updating. But Radisson remains a daily event, Monday to Friday. On most days, even when they are in other areas, they're still at the Radisson, and in some cases at the stadium as well. So we'll post it on our Facebook page, so that those of you who are interested can and should take note of that. And of course, we encourage people to continue to listen to Sound Reason, to listen to the health practitioners. Do proper research. Don't do one-sided research to get or to come up with a good conclusion as to whether you think you should take the vaccine or not. At the end of the day, it's a personal choice. Whether nobody's forcing you, but at the end of the day, you have to consider more than just yourself in making the decision. All right.
Somebody wanted us to have a little laugh. They put my name. They say, Mr. Bola, let's give my man some boomstick.
They never say that.
So whoever that man is, behave yourself because you're getting boomstick. Behave, be a good boy.
All right, guys, we've come to the end of our program for today. As we say here every day, in whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe and be secure. We always want to be talking with you. We do not ever want to be talking about you. So please do enjoy the remainder of your day. Stay safe and have a wonderful rest of the day. It has been a pleasure speaking with you. Have a wonderful day, guys.
You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada via www.hardtalkgrenada.com.